My name is Steve Guttenberg, and I am the Audiophiliac, and today's show is all about the Pathos Impol Remix Mark II Stereo Integrated Amplifier. Now, by the way, I did another Pathos just a couple of years ago that looked almost exactly like this one, but that one was strictly a headphone amplifier. This one today, the Remix Mark II, is an integrated amp. That's what it is. It drives headphones, but it's primarily to play over speakers. The Remix Mark II is made by Pathos in Italy. The company was founded in Italy in 1994 in Vicenza, and they're proud that they still make most of their designs, all of their designs, in Italy, in their factory, and their vendors tend to be other Italian companies. And that's pretty impressive. So kudos to them for that. Now, as for this amplifier, well, I think it's incredibly beautiful. First of all, those heat sinks. I just love the look of their heat sinks. It was on the headphone amp, same ones that you see them on a lot of their products. Not all of them, but many. Yeah, this is, by the way, a Class A design. 25 watts, Class A, fully balanced. So it does run hot, or at least very warm to the touch. Not so hot that you'd burn yourself if you touch the heatsinks, not even close, but it does run warm. Well, the volume control is different. Knob feel in this case is a very different ballgame. First, because, well, it doesn't rotate the same way. You don't use it the same way. Its neutral position is straight up, 12 o'clock. If you want to make it louder, you turn it to the right. And when you let go, it returns back to the straight up position, but the volume remains at the place that you just put it. You want to turn it down, you turn it to the left. Now, speaking of touching things, the remote control is a slender, all-metal remote, and it's not a generic remote. Now, even with a lot of high-end companies, the remotes, I keep seeing them, the same ones over and over again, because they're not really made by those companies. They just buy them from a vendor. In this case, the Pathos remotes are made in-house, designed and made in-house by Pathos. And it's a minimalist remote. It's volume up, volume down, mute, input selection, and a couple other stuff, a couple of other things, and that's it. And I like that. That's all I need, right? It is a tube design. Now you'll see that there's two 6922s poking up from the top panel there. But those tubes are not in the preamp section. They are actually part of the output, this Impol circuitry. It's actually double Impol on the Remix Mark II. Now, as to exactly what Impol actually means, I'm going to bungle that if I try to explain it. So I'm just going to give you a link to the Pathos website, and you can read all about it. But it is a proprietary circuit that they use on some, not all, Pathos amplifiers. When it comes to describing this amplifier, there are a few options that I'd like to cover. First is the finish. You can get it in, well, my review sample was finished in like a textured black paint. Nicely done, but not as nice as the high gloss red finish of the headphone amp I reviewed a few years ago. That was amazing, kind of like a Ferrari red. But if that's a little too outlandish for you, no worries. You can also get it in high gloss white or this zebra wood finish, which is real wood. There's nothing fake about it. There's no plastic. This is a plastic-free design, by the way. Now the price. Oh, the price is $5,395. Or if you want to include the optional internal DAC, that raises the price to $6,070. Now, I don't usually use the built-in DACs and integrated amplifiers. I don't, and I recommend that people who buy $5,000 amplifiers go out and get the DAC that best suits their needs, because they change all the time. Why would you want to have a built-in DAC? And same for phono preamp. Now, they don't offer a built-in one, but I would always recommend using an external phono preamp if you play vinyl. Now I'm going to put up the not so complete specs, but the complete specs as I have them right here. I do, for the most part, review low power amplifiers, under 100 watt amplifiers. I like high sensitivity speakers for the most part. That's what I'm most comfortable with. But I would say the 25 watts a channel If you have reasonably high sensitivity speakers, meaning anything over 88 dB or so, and if you don't listen particularly loud, if your room isn't huge, 25 watts will take you surprisingly far. I never felt that I was, it wasn't enough. It was certainly more than enough for me. I'm going to talk a bit about the sound as an introduction right here. And that is to say, this amp sounds more like a tube amplifier than a solid state one. And I say that because tonally, it's on the rich side of neutral. It has a density to the sound that I'm drawn to. It is not thin or clinical or analytical. It never goes in that direction. It just kind of, well, pulls you in. Same for the soundstage. The soundstage is even more tubey in the sense that it's has depth and space, and it's just released from the speakers itself. It doesn't cling to the speakers. It just appears in a plane in front of them and is particularly spacious, and just it's less like listening to a hi-fi. That's another way to put it. For music, I'm going to start with this one. This is a John Mellencamp record recorded in 2010, produced by T-Bone Burnett. But it's not a typical done in a studio kind of record, because first of all, part of it was done in a church. Part of it was done at Sun Studios in Memphis, where Elvis Presley did all of his earliest and best work, and also in a hotel room in San Antonio, Texas. So you feel this difference of vibe and space. Oh, and by the way, it was recorded, all the tracks were recorded in mono. And what really jumps out of this record is its authenticity. You just feel that Mellencamp was there to get it done. Like, I am just going to knock out these tunes. Not a lot of fancy, overdubs or auto-tune or anything like that. He just made the music happen in these three environments: the church, Sun Studios, and in a hotel room, right? And you feel that energy. You just feel that energy just bounding out of the speakers. So, one of my favorite bands of the 60s, British bands of the 60s, was the Kinks. Now, for me, my personal taste, the three top British bands were the Beatles, the Stones, and the Kinks, not Led Zeppelin or The Who or Pink Floyd. They were good. They were really, really good, but they didn't scale the heights like the Beatles and the Stones and the Kinks did. And the Kinks are right up there. They don't get enough respect, because Ray Davies, who did almost all the songwriting, his brother did some, but it was mostly Ray. He didn't have a songwriting partner. Very British in his mindset, and it's just stood apart from everything else that was happening. And when you saw the Kinks live, they were going for it. They were so much fun. A really, really fun experience seeing the Kinks back in the day. So anyway, this recording that I'm going to talk about now was done in, I think, 2009. And it's Ray Davies, not the Kinks per se, Ray Davies with a choir. The music is arranged for a rock band, more or less, and this big choir. I don't remember, it was 20 or 30 people on stage. And it just transforms this very familiar music. Now, I would say that the recording isn't as good as I wanted it to be. It's a little dull. But what it does so well is that sense of scale from the choir. This size, this majesty to this music, this very familiar music. And I have to say that the little tiny, because it's a smaller than average amplifier. I should have said this earlier. It's not a big hunkin' amplifier, right? This little amplifier with either the babies, the Devore O babies, or the Klipsch Cornwalls, it just kind of had that scale. And I sat there and listened with my jaw on the floor, just like, wow. Because I saw these shows live, the Ray Davies with the choir. I don't remember if that happened before or after the record came out, but I saw it happen live, and this record was Goosebump City to reconnect with that music. For comparison, I used the Paslabs HPA-1, which is a headphone amp, uses a preamp, and also the First Watt F7. So the power was about the same, and it's also a Class A amplifier. Now, I would say the Paslabs stuff was brighter, more transparent, and sounded more powerful. The sound definitely had more heft to it. But the Pathos had more that tubes quality. It was more 3D. It just had more spatial things going on than I got from the past stuff. They're both really good. They're doing different things, and they're both of about the same power rating. So I like them both. But yeah, I would say the Pass is more kinetic, more transient alive than the Pathos. You know, another crossover recording that I'm really excited about is a recent one. I'm not sure when it came out, but it's a new record by Jackie Dankworth, and she's backed by the Brodsky String Quartet. And her version of Sitting on Top of the World is blues, I guess, standard. I know it best from the Cream version. She makes it her own. She's a very powerful singer, but not a shouter. She's not a blues singer. She has a very pure but powerful voice. And the way it just erupted from the Cornwells and also from the O'Babies was just like one of those, yeah, wow, what an amazing record. I bought the CD. It's not available on LP, but it's one of those I kept coming back to and listening to it on Qobuz. And this amplifier, the Remix Mark II, definitely connected all the dots in just the right places. Next up was this one, Paul McCartney's rock and roll record. Now, I used to think, this was recorded in 1987 when he had had a couple of bombs. Records just kind of came and went. But this record, I thought for a long time it was recorded in the Soviet Union. That's not true. It was recorded in 1987, as far as I know, in London, but released in the Soviet Union initially and held back from the rest of the world for 2 years. But it was his recharge record. It was him getting in touch with his rock and roll roots from his childhood. And you just feel that, man. You just feel that he is still young. His voice is still really powerful. And I had a great time. This isn't really the music of my youth. I'm old, but not as old as Paul. But anyway, I was having a blast. And this little amplifier can definitely rock out. He did it with the Divorce speakers, with the O'Babies, and also the same tracks listening over the Cornwell 4s. Okay, so then I wanted to do a piano recording. Pianos are tough. Really, really hard. To record a piano well is pretty darn difficult, and to play it back and sound real, next to impossible. But I wanted to give it a try, and I used this recording, which is very, very special. Gershwin plays Gershwin. Now here's the deal. It wasn't recorded to tape or to disc. It was recorded as basically as piano rolls that George Gershwin would play the music, and it was basically making punch holes in paper rolls, and that was the recording. And for this CD that I'm playing back, in the early 90s, they took those paper piano rolls and transcribed them to, basically made them into computer files that were then played over a modern piano, a Yamaha piano. So the recording itself is from the 90s, but George did the initial recording in the teens and the 20s and the 30s. And man, oh man, is it good. It's very dynamic. It is very, very powerful. And the swing, that's what makes this recording so incredible, is you just feel like it's real, you know, like it's an actual human being playing this piano. Now, does the Remix Mark II and the Baby or the Cornwell get me there over the edge into, yeah, it sounds like there's a piano in the room? No. But the vibe of it, the feel of it, the roll of it is wonderful. So for that, I would say the Mark II was hitting its marks, definitely. So recalling those positive experiences I had with the Pathos headphone amplifier, I was eager to see what the Remix Mark II would do with, well, these two headphones, my Grado RS1s. These are original RS1s. They got to be pushing 20 years old at this point. And my Audeze LCD2s. These aren't originals, but they're pretty close to original. And it was interesting that these two headphones do not sound anything like each other, but here on the Remix 2, they both had that big stage. Now, usually the Grado wins on sounding incredibly open, but for some reason, the Pathos made the LCD2 image better, bigger, more spacious, less inside my head than those headphones usually sound. They were both very, very dynamically alive. A lot of transient information was coming through both. But yeah, of course, the LCD2 is definitely going to win when it comes to power delivery and real bottom end push. The Gratos can sound considerably lighter in weight and more mid-rangey, basically, than the LCD2. But I love both of these headphones, and I felt, yeah, the Remix is definitely taking charge of these two. Very nice combination with both. All right, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it right now. So Steve, what do you really think? What do you really think of the Pathos Impol Remix Mark II stereo integrated amplifier? I like it. I think it's a very, very, very impressive piece of work. I think it looks great. I think it sounds great. It feels great. It's made in Italy. The catch is, of course, it's 25 watts. Now, is it a universal amplifier? No, it's not going to make everybody happy. If you want a tube sound without the other hassles of tubes, of, big power tubes and stuff, this is worth considering. And if you can deal with 25 watts, because I think this is another example of quality over quantity. Yes, for the same dollars, I know, you can buy a much more powerful amplifier for $5,395. I get it, sure you can. So it really comes down to you and your taste and how loud you listen, what you want, your speakers, your room, all that other stuff. If this sounds like the kind of thing that might work for you, yeah, I think this is definitely worth considering. I really, really liked it, and I'm going to get a little weepy when I send this one back because I really have to. But anyway, it is now time for the Audiophiliac Viewer System of the Day. This one comes from Will, and he's loving his music in Arizona. The speakers definitely caught my eye. I've never seen those before. Viking Acoustic Grand Vox dual horn speakers. Then there's the Canary Audio Grand Reference 300B mono amps with 16 Western Electric 300B tubes hiding in there. Then there's a Canary Audio C1800 preamp, Lampizator Pacific DAC. The music server is a Lucas Audio LMDS 8 terabyte server. And then there's an Inacoustic 3500p power conditioner, and of course an assortment of good quality cables and power cords, etc., etc. Well, Will, that sounds like it must be pretty freaking amazing. Thanks. All right, we are back. My name is Steve Guttenberg, and I am the Audiophiliac, and this is my YouTube channel. If you like what I'm doing here on the channel, please consider joining my Patreon. The link is below this video, but there's the address on the screen right there. And if you join and check it out, you can join at various levels for a few bucks a month up to $50 a month. And it really helps keep this channel going and healthy as we, all of us collectively, approach 250,000 subscribers, hopefully by the end of this year, and the 5th anniversary of the show in August, definitely coming up soon. And I can close with the ever popular, if you like what I'm doing here on the channel, other than joining the Patreon, please hit that like button and consider subscribing to the channel. And with that, I can say my work here is at last complete. Thank you so much for watching, and I really, really do hope to see you back here again very, very soon. Bye-bye.